There's a story all over the British news, so this is me putting my two penneth worth in. And I apologise, it's going to be another boring political one. Now, I'm old enough to remember living under previous Labour governments. So, when this lot got in, and trust me, the Tories weren't any good, when Labour got elected, I knew it was going to be bad. But I had no idea it would be this bad this quickly. This collection of useless half-wits, none of them know what they're doing. Not only that, when they were in opposition, they were always on about Tory corruption. Now, pot, kettle, black. Since they've come to office, the amount of sleaze, corruption and allegedly backhanders would usually be enough for a government over a full 2 terms. They've done this in 14 months. The current issue surrounds Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner. For years, she's been the darling of the Labour Party because she was a working class girl, a teenage single mother, and all credit to her, she's now the Deputy Prime Minister, the second most powerful politician in the United Kingdom. For years, she's also been Labour's attack dog. There was one time she was shut down by the Speaker of the House of Commons because she called the opposition, who were then the government, and I quote, Tory scum. And she was always on about corruption. One rule for them and one rule for us. Well, thank God now Labour are in power. There's no hint of two-tier justice, politics or policing. So here are a few quotes. One rule for them, another for everyone else. Quite literally, one rule for those and another for the rest of us. One rule for them and another rule for the rest of us, obviously. So we've got an idea what her opinions are when it comes to any form of imbalance or just unfairness when it comes to politics. When Nadir Zahari was caught fiddling his taxes, she tweeted this. Nadir Zahari's story about his tax affairs doesn't add up. After months of denials, the truth emerges. His position is untenable. Rishi Sunak must dismiss him from his cabinet. A woman of principle then. Let's hear it straight from the horse's mouth. I'm not saying that Angela Rayner looks like a horse. Well, she does a bit.
Every pound of tax that's not delivered to the Chancellor and to the Exchequer means that it damages our public services, and we know the state they're in. So the former Chancellor, when he was Chancellor last summer, made it clear at the time when he was questioned that he pays all his taxes and that he's done everything appropriately, and was threatening legal letters to anyone that questioned him. Now it emerged actually that that's not true, and that there was a HMRC investigation and that he's had to pay penalties for that. I think that makes his position untenable.
I'm all for that. That's proper old school Labour, for the working people that they constantly bang on about. And our illustrious leader, Keir Starmer, the man with a voice like a dial-up modem, he agrees with it. Here's what he said when he was in opposition.
That any politician who seeks to avoid the taxes they owe in this country is not fit to be in charge of taxpayer money.
So it's a bit of a shame that our Ange, upon buying her third home, has been caught trying to dodge £40,000 in stamp duty or tax. Now, I'm no expert. I don't think technically she's broken the law, but there's been a lot of jiggery-pokery to get around things. What do you say, Ms. Rayner? One rule for you and one rule for everyone else. Also, she's the Secretary of State for Housing, so she should really know this shit, and if she doesn't, people around her will. She's the MP for Ashton-under-Lyne up in Manchester. That's her constituency, so that should be her primary residence. But recently, she bought a luxury flat down in Hove on the south coast for £800,000. How the fuck did she get a mortgage for that on an MP's salary? Lord Alley! But when she bought that, she removed her name from her house in Manchester and transferred it to Hove, saying that's her primary residence. Now, it's a bit complicated because she and her husband have recently divorced, so she took her name off the house up north, leaving the house in trust to her severely disabled son. Because if it's in trust, as far as I understand, I may be wrong, then she won't need to pay any tax on it when he inherits the house, or when the trust is signed over to him. That's nice for any farmers watching, or for any people in the UK with expensive houses. It's okay for the government to tax you when you die, but they'll use every fucking loophole to get around it. Thus, by removing the name from the property in her constituency and then saying that her new property in Hove is her primary residence, she avoided 40 grand in stamp duty. She said that she bought the property in Hove because she needs to be nearer to London. And that's all well and good, except I've mentioned 2 of her 3 homes. Her second home is her Grace and Favour flats in London, paid for by the taxpayers. She gets it all on expenses. And I'm not saying she's an evil person, but it's the fucking hypocrisy of it. If she put her hands up and said, yes, I wanted a nice house by the seaside and I've got a fucking good accountant, I think most people would have sort of accepted that. But no. And here's the other thing. Back in 2008, she sued the NHS, good old Labour lass there, for negligence following the premature birth of her son, who is severely disabled. Like I said, there's money in a trust for him. And I may be wrong here, I thought a trust can't be touched until the recipient is 18 years old. He is 17 years old. And she managed to take 160 plus £1,000 out of that trust to put down as the deposit on her new flat. What the fuck is going on? So let's hear it in her own words in this short clip from an interview she gave for Sky News.
Subsequently to that, with all of the media reports that have been coming out, I took expert counsel advice on all of my affairs to ensure that everything was done proper. And that
Right. I took expert counsel advice to make sure everything was done proper, rather than I took an expert counsel advice to make sure everything was done properly. Now, either she is barely literate and thick as mince, so her speechwriters are amazing, or call me a cynic. She's playing on the whole working class thing. Sound a bit thick, like you didn't understand the legal proceedings. And I'm not picking on her because of her accent. There are many people from the north of England who can speak English very eloquently. At the time of recording, she hasn't been sacked yet. And that's a dilemma for Keith Starlin, because he's almost certainly going to have to sack the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, when she gives her next, and let's be blunt, last budget. Because that'll just be tax hikes and it'll squeeze everyone too much. I do like that Rachel Reeves, who's also known as Rachel Thieves and Rachel from Accounts, is now being referred to as Richard III because she bears an uncanny resemblance to the dead monarch. That being said, if she was buried in a car park in Leicester, the economy would be doing better. But now Starmer, if he doesn't sack Rayner, he looks weak. But to his advantage, if she doesn't lose her job, she loses her credibility and then she's weaker and can't challenge him for the top job. Or if she just resigns. That's a very familiar pattern for this current government. I can't remember all of them, but there are 3 or 4 ministers have resigned so far. One of them was the anti-corruption minister who's had to resign because he's in Bangladesh being charged with corruption. So if the head of the housing department has to resign because she was caught fiddling her taxes when buying a fucking house, that's par the course. What the fuck are these people doing? So that's the end of another shouty, ranty politics video. If you enjoyed it, please do like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you can leave a like, a comment or share the video, that really helps the algorithm. If you'd like to support me in making these videos, and thanks to everyone who's done so already, there are links in the description to my Patreon and to buy me a coffee. And as ever, thanks for watching. Richard III is also Cockney rhyming slang. Going for a Richard means going to the toilet. Richard III, turd. Ms. Rayner. And if you meet a woman going by Ms, she's probably going to be trouble. Shit, fucking bollocks. So when Rachel Reeves Rachel Reeves gives her next, and let's be blunt, final budget, because she's going to put up taxes, which they said time and again they wouldn't do. It's almost like we're being governed by fucking pathological liars. So, bollocks.